Since Ghostwire came out, I've really wanted to see where Shinji Mikami's legacy started. To this end, I started playing Resident Evil, a cultural icon, founding father of the survival horror genre in video games, spawner of terrible movies, books, and other media. It's not easy to hide from the impact which Resident Evil has had on the industry, both in video games and out. It's a smash hit, no two ways around it, but how does it hold up after all these years? So, what's it about? You play as either Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield as part of a team of police officers who have been sent off to investigate the disappearance of a fellow investigation team, Team Alpha, on the outskirts of Raccoon City, who were sent there to investigate a collection of murders. After your squad is attacked by a pack of dogs that have probably had one too many vitamin gummies, you and one other colleague arrive at the mansion. After starting off by exploring the entrance hallway and initial rooms, it quickly becomes apparent that not everything is as it seems. Zombies prowling the corridors, suicide notes and letters left by the previous residents, booby traps around every corner, something isn't right. Your task, should you choose to accept it, find the original members of Alpha Squad and what happened to them. Find the other members of your squad and discover the secret behind the mansion and what went on here. Simple, but effective. I know nothing about Resident Evil whatsoever. I've never played a game in the series, never watched one of its movies, never read one of its books, nothing. So once I got past the original mandatory exploration sections of the game and given a few modicums of intrigue that something nasty is going on, I was hooked. What are the experiments they're conducting? Why? Why is there just a massive snake chilling in the attic? It's intriguing. It trusts that the player will naturally want to find out more and trusts that they will explore every nook and cranny to progress, and, in the process, discover the secrets of the mansion and what happened here to cause it all to go south. I think now it's worth mentioning that I did not play the original version of this game. I played the HD Remaster for it that's on Steam. I mention this because a buddy of mine pointed out that whilst I was making use of the game telling me once I'd fully explored a room, the original game did not have this feature. Similarly, I can only assume that they improved on tank control since the original. As to the game's credit, it didn't feel too clunky or too difficult to manage, considering its infamy as being one of the most frustrating games to play when you're trying to maneuver tight corridors, investigate small areas of rooms, and fight zombies that sometimes go twice your speed. But what is its gameplay actually like? Well, the core of it is akin to a point-and-click adventure game. You rub yourself up against all manner of surfaces and find items which will then help you solve puzzles to help you progress. Usually they're grounded in reality, like when you have to find 2 gems to find a key to open a grandfather clock and solve the puzzle written on it. Not quite grounded in most realities, but grounded for video game realities. Other times though, it's far more obtuse, like when you have to find a key, which is in the back of a book in a dungeon, which is down a staircase, which is hidden behind a statue, which can only be opened by using the tip of an arrowhead. Not quite the level of insanity some point-and-click games can get to, but still pretty insane. The survival element comes from having a limited amount of resources. Around the mansion, you'll find ammo for your weaponry, as well as herbs for healing and ink ribbons for saving. There's a level of tension you get from using anything in the game, knowing that there may come a point when you won't be able to find any more of it. This is especially true when saving. You can only save your game in certain save rooms using a typewriter, and you can only save using a typewriter if you have spare ink ribbons. So you could explore half the mansion and think you're fine, then get insta-killed by a booby trap and restart from the very beginning. Huh? What? It's one of those games, is it? Initially, this was extremely frustrating and I thought it pointless. But as I continued to play and played smarter and smarter, I grew to enjoy this style. Knowing that everything in the game is finite leans in well with the atmosphere, it's consistent with its theming, and makes the game even more tense because of it. Yes, there will be some frustrating moments when you may lose a significant chunk of progress, but I found these moments few and far between, and never deal breakers. Combat is the other major part of gameplay, almost functioning like an auto-aim system. You need to specifically bring your gun up to shoot, but you don't need to aim left or right accurately to hit any enemy. As long as you are in the general vicinity of the enemy, you will hit them. You may occasionally need to aim up or down, but generally you won't need to. This part of the game does feel very clunky and annoying, especially when sometimes it's unclear whether or not you're even aiming in the right place. Dogs running at you zigzagging left and right seem to matrix around your bullets, dodging everything when up close. But then when they're far away doing the exact same thing, they act like magnets for bullets. It's inconsistent, but you can at least leave these enemies behind and run away from them, and this isn't an issue with bosses. You also get a small selection of weapons to choose from, which is where playing as different characters helps to spice things up. Both characters have access to a default pistol, a shotgun, a revolver, and a single-shot use self-defense gun. If you play as Chris, you get access to a flamethrower, and if you play as Jill, you get access to a grenade launcher, which has various different ammo types to choose from. For the most part otherwise, both characters play identically, the only differences being that Chris is faster and more resilient, and Jill has a lockpick, whereas Chris has to find old keys to access certain doors. Otherwise, their stories are identical, and those slight changes to gameplay are given to the player so that repeat playthroughs aren't the exact same affair as the last time. A unique feature, for modern times, is the fixed camera perspective the game uses too. When you enter a new room or corridor, you won't have the camera locked behind you, third person style. The camera is placed in the corner of a room, or a bird's eye, or right behind you, depending on what the director has decided is the best placement for this specific room. It's frustrating because you can get halfway down a corridor, then the perspective will change to something better, and you won't adapt your directional input, spinning you around back the way you came. When the same thing will happen, and you'll bounce between your perspectives for a bit. You can get used to this, however, and when you do, it works heavily in its favour. You get these unique B-movie angles which aren't present in games nowadays. Walking through a graveyard and the camera will position itself behind a fence, as if to show that someone is watching you. Walking down a corridor and the camera will watch from the start as you progress further and further into the darkness. Coupled with the horror element, where you won't know what's around a corner until you specifically walk around the corner to see, instead of positioning yourself near to it and using the camera to take a cheeky glance around, adds so much tension to the experience. Coupled with great sound design, there are some great moments to be found. Footsteps echoing throughout the corridors as you travel from place to place, leaves rustling in the wind, creating whispers which make you think there's something around every corner, the slow squelch of a zombie walking around the corner. The soundtrack in general doesn't have any standout tracks which make me want to bounce off the wall, but each one serves its purpose of making hairs on the back of my neck stand out when a zombie breaks a glass window and starts shuffling towards me, or when I enter a room to find a plant burying its roots into the mountain's foundations, or when I'm walking through the waterlogged arena and hear the music start up as a shark comes in from the deep. Even just the lighter in-tone music associated with safe rooms create a sense of safety and brevity, as you know that everything is safe now and nothing will hurt you. It's a uniquely enjoyable game, and no surprise why it has survived all these years. I suspect that in its original state, it would feel far clunkier than it actually is, and the remaster has done a lot to alleviate that issue. But I now see why Shinji Mikami has been able to make such a name for himself. A completely unique take on survival horror with an intriguing story and mansion dripping with atmosphere comes together to create a thoroughly enjoyable experience. And with that, I'm really excited to go and explore the rest of the Resident Evil series, and we'll be playing Resident Evil 2 very soon. 100, yes it did. I like to keep a calm and cool composure most of the time, but no, f***ed up then. How long will I be playing for though? Probably another 40 minutes at least. Gonna start winding it down, yeah, gonna start winding it down about 11 o'clock. Hey, that's another one! Fuck me, dude. Stop! Anchor.